Mickey 17 is the latest film directed by Bong Joon-ho, his first feature film following the major success Parasite had, winning Best Picture. And off the top, if your relationship with Bong Joon-ho is only Parasite, this film might feel a little jarring to you. But if you've seen his other work, this very much feels more in line than what he tends to do compared to Parasite. And what I mean by that is, in my opinion, this is a straightforward comedy. Where Parasite certainly hits on the social commentary issues that are present in all of his films, this film does that too, the max, in a very comical way. The film I would most compare to is Okja, but it does feel like he has these two different modes to him, where you have Parasite, Memories of a Murder, and then films like this, Mickey 17, Okja, Snowpiercer. So I'm not sure if the line is if the film is more predominantly in English, but it is starting to feel like those are the films where he likes to be a little more goofy, creative, have a lot of fun. And so those films, Mickey 17 included, I think are going to be far more subjective, because it's all going to be dependent on how much the comedy actually works for you. And unfortunately, the comedy in this film didn't really land for me. And I want to emphasize over and over again that I did not dislike this movie. There was more about it that worked than didn't, but I think when we reach the end, the final product, this is probably one of my least favorite of his films. If you haven't seen the trailer, Robert Pattinson essentially plays what is known as an expendable for this corporation led by Mark Ruffalo, who plays this failed politician that eventually just starts his own religion and goes up into space because this technology to clone these expendables isn't legal on Earth. So Robert Pattinson plays this person that is tested on for various disease, going out into these missions where he may die, and being this test dummy that dies over and over and over again until we get to the 17th version of him. So automatically this premise is out there and rather goofy, and the movie doesn't shy away from that. It makes a lot of jokes at the expense of how absurd this concept is. The comedy is all over the place, being dark and also slapstick at times, and the plot goes on to explore a variety of different ideas, from capitalism to animal cruelty, religion, a little bit of racism, immigration, and like previous Bong Joon-ho movies, none of it's subtle. And so where this movie fell short for me, I'm having trouble putting into words, because I don't think it's the lack of subtlety. And it's also not that I disagree with what this movie is trying to say, to speak against these authoritarian political figures, but it definitely reaches this point where it doesn't even feel like a satire anymore, where Mark Ruffalo almost fully embodies this parody of Donald Trump. He has the hair slick back, he has the mannerisms, the speech patterns, and it gets to the point where he's just rephrasing quotes that Trump has said before. I think the movie that this most reminds me of is Don't Look Up, which was another political satire speaking on very relevant social issues, but what made it so polarizing was how in your face it was. And I don't think Mickey 17 is nearly as in your face or looking down on the audience like that film did, but when it comes to the comedic sensibility, I think there are a lot of similarities within them, with just how on the nose their characters are portraying these social issues. So I think for me it's both a negative with this film, but also in some ways a positive, because I do give Bong Joon-ho a lot of respect for not holding back in what he wants to create. Because while this social commentary can feel rather repetitive within television and film these days, he does manage to do it in a very unique and creative way that we haven't really seen before. And I have not read the book from which this screenplay was adapted from, so I can't really compare how much of that was from that original source material, but from the creative decisions that I assume were made for this film, I think he did a rather good job. Without question, the best part of this film is Robert Pattinson. I think he is one of the most talented working actors today, and he's doing things that we haven't even really seen him do before, which is saying a lot, because I think within the past 5-6 years, people have really warmed up to him. So for him to take on such a unique and creative role, I think really speaks to the talent that he has. There's a lot of other names you'll recognize. Yeun, I think, is great. Toni Collette is once again fantastic. Mark Ruffalo, unfortunately, just did not work for me, and I think that's just mostly due to the writing of his character, because I do believe he's doing exactly what he was asked to do. So this really is a mixed bag down the middle for me. And I do wonder if part of the grace I'm giving this film is because of the respect I have for the director. And what I mean by that is, because this is his first big film after winning Best Picture, he really could have done whatever he wanted. And so the fact that he is so committed to this idea and these morals, you can't help but respect that, even if there are minor things you would have done differently. At the end of the day, this is a great sci-fi adventure that does have something very important to say. And while it does appear that I am in the minority, not fully connecting with the tonal shifts that this movie makes, I do think that once a larger audience experiences this, especially when it hits streaming probably within the next year, it's going to be rather polarizing, like most comedic films are. But I would still rather watch this than the majority of things that I see in theaters, for no reason other than it having an original voice and being more unique than most of the big budget slop that we receive. So those are some of my brief thoughts thoughts on Mickey 17, and I would love to hear yours. Have you seen the film? What did you think? Did the jokes land in your theater? Because unfortunately for mine, it was met with mostly silence. Comment below, and I will see you next time.